It's time to battle Britain's bulging waistline. The NHS is not on its knees because of money. It's the biggest employer in Europe and one of the most expensive health systems on the planet. It's not because of COVID that the NHS is in trouble. Yes, COVID is a nasty virus, but non-fatal to almost everyone. Even at its worst, with the Alpha variant, a third had no symptoms. It's not even the diversity officers, which are a colossal waste of money, but which are also a distraction in this debate. The NHS is knackered because we're knackered. The health service is no longer viable because of truly appalling levels of public health. With obesity through the roof, worryingly now among children and babies as well, we've got 4 million people with type 2 diabetes, a largely preventable lifestyle-related illness that was non-existent in the 1950s. We drink too much. Many of us still smoke, and our diet is a national scandal. But I don't blame the public. We live in a toxic food environment where we graze all day long on a hellish blend of processed foods. And now you don't even have to walk down the street to get them. This poisonous slurry comes straight to our homes. Pizzas, burgers, soft drinks, muffins, chocolate bars, ice cream, cakes, you name it. Now, it's all lovely, don't get me wrong, but it's killing us. It all started in the 1960s when the now controversial US scientist Ansel Keys criticised natural fats and published flaky and partisan data which demonised red meat, eggs and full-fat dairy, all the things that your grandmother said were good for you. Well, your grandmother was right, but she was ignored. Following a change in policy to go low-fat, high-carb in the 70s, 80s and 90s, it was a gold rush for the food industry as we moved away from real natural ingredients to products in boxes with 1 million ingredients. Cereals, breads, pasta, biscuits, a bonanza of wheat, sugar, rice and corn. Except the low-fat diet made us all fat. To this day, in my view, our own NHS perpetuates the obesity crisis with its so-called Eat Well plate, which encourages people to have carbohydrates as their main source of energy. This crazy dogma across the Western world has seen rates of obesity skyrocket in the last few decades, and it's bankrupting our health systems. Why? Because obesity is linked to a whole range of expensively treated ailments. Joint problems, for example, with 35-year-olds now getting new hips and knees. Just think of the cost to the NHS. 35-year-olds getting new knees. Obesity is a gateway drug to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, depression, kidney issues, dementia, and most worryingly, cancer. Which is why it's interesting that the highly respected medic, Professor Tim Spector, has said that exercise and calorie counting don't make a blind bit of difference if you want to get thin. In a podcast this week in relation to exercise, he said, we should all do it, we should all do exercise, but absolutely not if your goal is weight loss. It's a huge myth perpetuated by gyms and fitness apps. He also said, and here is a shocker, that calorie counting, although effective in the short term, was complete nonsense because most people who adhere to the tedious regime bounce back. You know as well as I do, when you calorie count, the moment you stop, not only do you put the weight back on, but you put more on, and there's the problem. In the end, if you listen to the likes of Spector or Dr. Michael Mosley, a good friend of mine, whose new book, The Fast 800 Keto Diet, I'd highly recommend. On a similar plan, I lost 3 stone in no time. Or how about this handsome devil, Dr. David Unwin, an NHS GP who has slimmed his patients down without pills and without hunger. The message is clear. It's all about insulin. Insulin is the main fat storage hormone of the body. When it's high, we store fat and get fatter, and when it's low, we burn fat and get thinner. Processed carbohydrates, sugar, bread, pasta, rice, beer, And even the so-called heart-healthy whole grains and many fruits spike insulin, rendering weight loss impossible and weight gain inevitable. Live on a diet of meat, fish, eggs, nuts, full-fat dairy, green vegetables, low-sugar fruits like berries, and natural fats like olive oil and butter will keep that insulin down, and the fat just melts away. Don't take my word for it. Former deputy leader of the Labour Party was Tom Watson. He followed that protocol. He lost an amazing 7 stone, and he wrote a book about it. And the aforementioned Dr. David Unwin has reversed the diabetes of 75% of his patients in a year. He's reversed their diabetes in a year and eliminated 93% of pre-diabetes in an even shorter time frame. How did he do it? By getting them to ditch the carbs. Plus, he reports now that those patients are slimmer and healthier too. Obesity, if left unchecked, will devastate the lives of millions and will bankrupt the NHS. Tackle it and we'll be quids in, and those out-of-date medics will be eating their words.